The voice you're about to hear is from a lady called Bessie Schluppe, who works for the South African Council for the Architectural Profession and was the investigator assigned to me by this association. I had laid a complaint of fraud against our architect Steve Long and his client owner, Mr. Stuart Bradbury. Mr. Bradbury was assisted by his attorney, landlord specialist Coral Hoffmeyer.
So true. And the reason why I wanted to call was because I wanted to encourage you to say if there's anything else. It's sort of like I spoke to my colleagues about the issue with SIFA and the issue with the other two corrupt architects that you did not directly complain about.
Yeah.
So what they said to me was that the best thing that I can do, because is to mention every single thing you say in my report, trying to put it in there.
Yeah.
Even if it has nothing to do with Steve, but just try to put it in there so that when it goes for the review, they can't also ignore it on our side. And obviously, when you get the report yourself in future, you'll be able to say, okay, SACAP did mention this in their report. Did mention this. And surprisingly, I think it was Friday, but I will still forward you this email. I got an email from the city. I just forgot that. Let me just check quickly. The some lady is, I think it's Ayanda.
Yeah, I think I've dealt with. She's from the legal department. She would be dealing with your access to information, I think.
Yes, I got an email from her on the 17th, and it was Friday. I was sick on Friday, so I did not respond to it. But then, what she was saying on the email was that she just wants us to forward her the permission that we got from the homeowner.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
100% fair. And then I'm also like, oh, that's great. Maybe she has everything now and she's just ready to send it, right? And I'm like, positive. The problem is it's from the same person. And this very same person could have at least given us the chance to send her back the response from the homeowner before she sends us a rejection. I mean, it doesn't make sense for me to send an email today asking for something and then the next day reject something without even getting what I asked for. So I'm just going to mention it in that way in my report.
Okay.
It's not that maybe it's going to be of help or so forth, but I was thinking it could also help you as well when you're speaking about how the city has treated you, to say, this is also something that, because what I'm going to do is on my report, I'm going to say we've requested 1, 2, 3 from the city and they've not given it to us. Instead, they've made us wait for over, I think it's 5 months now, for them to respond.
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to mention that when we finally got a response from their legal department, they asked for something, but then they rejected our application without even obtaining what they needed from us. What I want to try and do with the videos, I want to try to include them in the report, which means if I include them in my report, they have to go through each and every single video before they make a decision about the matter.
And I was going to ask you, should I send this movie that I've done to the owner and say that I've sent it to you so you can ask them questions about it? Because there's nothing, I'm not frightened of hiding anything.
Yes, you can. You can definitely do that, Chrissy. I mean, it's fine by me because what I do know is, however, I doubt he'll be responding because what happened is, remember when I think it was before, not sure if it was before I requested that time I sent you an email that you must respond to what he said about the bribery.
Yeah.
He sent me an email. I will just take clips for you. He sent me an email to say that he honestly believed, because I went back to him after we spoke and I said, since you've promised us the occupational certificates, he said he had some, and then I said, since you've said you're going to provide them with us, when can you get back to us with that? And then he came back to me, I think the next day, and then he said, no, Bessie, I honestly was sharing everything with you. believing that it was confidential. Now, so basically what he was saying is that it's as if you have went and I don't know, asked him or questioned him about it, and then he just said that he's done everything he can to assist us. What he will do now, he would like all communication to be through his attorney.
Oh, this is typical.
I know, and it's irrelevant what he's saying, to be honest, because like the great part is the video, because the video proves that he was just lying.
Of course.
And that's even great, because it's great for our investigation to say even the homeowner's lying. It's as if now people are just hiding things for each other.
Exactly.
And the fact that he said he has the occupational certificate, because he said to me he's in Gauteng. He has some with him, but all the remaining documents are at his home. And some things he lost because it's since 2009. And then I said, no, what he has is okay. And that's when he then gave us permission to also ask the municipality. But now, for him to now come back now and say he can't find anything after he said he does have something, it just shows, But now with this municipalities acting, they're acting as though they've really offended me by not giving me what I asked. The worst part with the city, I really think, to be honest, I think it's over for the city, and I think, I don't know, I think we've said before, I think God is just using you to actually like expose some people, because it's very obvious what happened here, and the city is in a lot of trouble, Chrissy, I don't want to lie.
And I hadn't even thought about, until you said something, that they might have to then, if this planning has been suspect, they might have to then reevaluate other plans. I didn't even think. So they've got a lot to lose, hey?
That's the thing. That's why I think even now, I mean, the way they're behaving. Like I'm telling you, Chrissy, usually the city is open to us. I mean, we will ask when anything about a plan, and they will let us know, even if you're asking for a letter, just a letter to say, can we have this letter? They provide that to us. Even if we want annexures to everything, they provide that. They've never hit us before with an access to information up until the day I asked about your matter. It has never happened before. And it's just obvious they're trying to hide something. Even this Ayanda lady, I mean, she chose to respond now because she's thinking probably with the lockdown we won't be able to respond. I mean, she's known about this for a very long time now.
My name is Rudolf Opperman. I am a professional architect in the regulatory field with the national regulator for the compulsory specifications. I'm going to talk about the National Building Regulations. It's an act that was passed in 1977, and it gives you the ground rules for playing the game of architecture. In other words, anything that is related to the building industry and how we compete against each other. We cannot compete against each other if we don't have a set of equal rules dealing with all of us.
Section 23 remains an operative exemption from liability, which is a complete answer to the municipality in carrying out its functions under the Building Act, which take precedence over the general provisions of the State Liability Act.
Section 23 of the Act.
Yes.
Section 23 exempts the local authority from liability. Not that that would be a watertight case. You can try and fight it in court to try and prove to the court that you have done everything in your power to get the powers that be to perform their function, and if they were negligent in doing so, automatically they will still be liable.
Okay.
But the overriding aspect is that they are performing an administrative function, and because of that, they cannot be held liable for performing such function.
Okay.
Being negligent in performing their task, that's something different.
And Section 23 remains an operative exemption from liability, which is a complete answer to the totality of the claims by the plaintiff against the city in this case.
Yes. And so if that is so, could that not be pleaded?
Could be pleaded by the plaintiff?
By the defendant, by the second defendant.
Well,
So in other words, in response to the allegations in the particulars of claim, should the second defendant, or could the second defendant not simply plead that liability is excluded in terms of the relevant legislation, the Building Act, for example?
That would still result in if the exception is good, that the Section 23 exempts the city from liability.
Yes.
Then the whole point of an exception is to avoid the need for the leading evidence and for the city being dragged into a trial to deal with all the issues of quantum and negligence and liability. When there's a legal defence, if that legal defence is a good legal defence, then that is the end of the plaintiff's case against the city. Purpose of an exception in this kind of exception is to then dispose of the matter without needing the need for an entire trial.
Our challenge is to not only get the public to understand that they have to adhere to this legislation, but also to get the local authorities and their politicians and councillors to see the relevance and the necessity for such enforcement to take place at that grassroots levels.
The whole problem of enforcement. And then the other one is also the approval of the plans. If I understand correctly from both of you, that there was more than one set of plans.
I think at least 3 sets that we know of. Yeah.
And they still keep designing. They're still designing.
There's a lot of loopholes that we have to look at.
Yeah. So what they then do is they take the initial consent form and they then attach it to subsequent plans that had not in fact been agreed by the neighbours. And that is a concern because that is a misrepresentation.
So, and then the other point is just like this.
Because I've got the officials from Plumstead who covers Hartbeespoort and Londonderry. And they are different officials. They are Pierre Hoffer and Ozzy is now there. And the building inspector and the building inspector in Hartbeespoort is fantastic. He's like a bulldog. So this is not the public and the public representative not liking the building inspectors because Rui Rodriguez is fantastic. He's like a bulldog. And then Steve Wilkinson, is like a phantom.
Do you know anything about city procedures, or can you read plans?
I'll explain the purpose of this meeting.
No, but I just want you to answer me yes or no.
I'm a forensic investigator. Complaints you are raised, so I'll have to make sure that what you raised now is outside of the court case. It wasn't dealt with by the court. If you complain about the irregularities on the part of officials, etc., that we will investigate and come up with findings in that regard. Okay.
Am I allowed to respond now?
Yeah, yes. You can respond, yes.
Okay. In terms of the court matter, the city officials lied under oath. The city officials obstructed my hire applications, and I believe are complicit, and I believe I have enough evidence to show beyond reasonable doubt that the city officials were complicit. I was absolutely astounded when I got the answering papers from Jaco Theron and the affidavits. I did not expect them to lie in the capacity that they did.
Is he now the city official? Yeah?
He's a city official.
Are you, for example, if you say they messed with plans, they've done this, and just listen to me. Then I'm going to say, okay, Ms. Phillips, are there documents that you want to? She's got lots of documents there. Are you going to make it available to us?
The documents that I had brought with me were from the Raw 53 record and were documents from the city's own record. I kept explaining to them I didn't need to give them any documents. They had all the information. They just needed to investigate. As none of them could read plans or understand engineering or any technical issues, and Sergeant Brits from Camps Bay Police said I mustn't leave any of my reports with them, I was willing to go through them, but it was pointless in this meeting. When they hadn't provided a professional engineer and an architect and someone who understood understood due procedure, city procedures, which is what I asked them to be at this meeting, but they were not. So consequently, I was talking to people who didn't understand the technicalities, which was really wasting my time.
We would have to call for the file, the whole file on Earth.
I asked for that to be here.
Yeah. We have to go.
I asked for someone who could read plans to be here. I asked for someone who knew procedure to be here. You know what, Barry, let's just go.
Wait, hold on a second. So, okay.
I asked for someone who understood the process to be here, then I wouldn't have
to...
to...
the investigating process, Mrs. Phillips.
But you don't know what... you don't know procedures. The public protector wrote a letter to me saying that the city knew procedures. The city forensics have to deal with it because they know procedures. You've just told me you don't.
The point is this. All right. Let's first establish, and I was trying to ask this earlier, why are we here? What is it that you guys are doing?
Okay. What I've said,
attempting to do.
Okay, what I've said, preliminary, there was a complaint coming.
Correct.
So I was off documents. Okay. I was supposed to even call the documents. We went through the documents. I saw a lot of things in the documents.
So, Mr. Fisher, what did you see in the documents? I've been waiting for feedback. I've been waiting for the end of your investigation. It's now November 2020, and I'm now in another wasted court process because you did nothing, Mr. Fisher. The City of Cape Town legal team, how can they stand up and defend what is a clear fraud, forgery, defeating the ends of justice? Let your officials take the stand. Don't hide behind very, very expensive attorneys desperately wanting to get this thrown out on a technical issue, because you do have the power and you do have the money. I had 2 attorneys against 7 very expensive legal representation. This isn't fair.
Section 23 of the Act.
Yes.
Section 23 exempts the local authority from liability. Not that that would be a watertight case. You can try and fight it in court to try and prove to the court that you have done everything in your power to get the powers that be to perform their function, and if they were negligent in doing so, automatically they will still be liable.
Okay.